Alright, so I have in front of me two premium flagship devices in the world of Android. This right here is the Realme GT2 Pro, while this is the Xiaomi 12 Pro. Now they're both Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 devices, however there is a difference of more than 13,000 between them. With that being said, Xiaomi is offering an introductory discount of almost 10,000, which basically brings both of these devices neck to neck. I mean, there is a difference in terms of the storage variant for the base options. This one is offered in 8 plus 128, while Xiaomi offers 8 plus 256 GB. Nonetheless, the big question remains, which device should you be picking? And that's what we'll be answering in this video. This is Varun from GTR and you're watching my in-depth comparison of the Realme GT2 Pro versus the Xiaomi 12 Pro. Let's get started. Alright, kicking things off, let's start by talking about the design here. Now, both the devices are flagship and they look amazing in their own ways. And they're both quite minimalistic too. Although Xiaomi is something that is a far bit more simpler, which personally I do like. Now, Realme is obviously a little bit lighter in comparison, although it does have the same level of thickness. Now, they're both equally ergonomic, but at the same time, they're both huge devices, so not exactly super comfortable. Now, while we're on the topic of ergonomics, one slight thing that I want to highlight is that by ergonomics, I mean the in-hand grip of the device. However, there is one difference that happens, which is that the GT2 Pro, because of its textured finish, adds a slightly more grip to your in-hand experience. However, with the Xiaomi 12 Pro, while this back finish has that velvet touch, which obviously feels a little smooth and does take some time getting used to. I mean, initially your first impressions will be, oh, this is a very smooth back. But trust me, your hands will adjust to it. You will end up liking the finish. However, the GT2 Pro definitely feels more grippier in hand. Speaking of grip, Xiaomi does not get fingerprint smudges for the most part, but obviously in comparison, Realme basically never gets them thanks to the paper bag that I highlighted. Now, one thing that kind of struck me as a surprise was the fact that neither of the device offers IP rating. To some extent, I can forgive Realme for that because it's a 50,000 device. But the Xiaomi 12 Pro is not a 50,000 device. It's available for nearly 50,000 after discounts, but this is a 63,000 device. So the fact that it omits like IP rating is something that does not sit well with me. Other than that, in terms of connectivity, you get a dual SIM card slot, no micro SD card slot for expansion, no 3.5 headphone jack. However, the Xiaomi 12 Pro does have the iconic IR blaster, so that's good. Moving on, let's talk about the displays, and for the most part, they're about the same. You got a 6.7-inch 2K 120Hz AMOLED panel with amazing peak brightnesses. Obviously, Xiaomi does have a little bit more brightness here, but that should not make a difference in the real world usage. Now, they both have Gorilla Glass Victus protection, both are HDR10 Plus certified, and support wideband L1. With that being said, for content consumption, Xiaomi has a massive edge. See, Realme does not support HDR inside Netflix yet, and it should be fixed in the future update, but for now, HDR works flawlessly inside Netflix on Xiaomi. And that's not all. Xiaomi is also Dolby Vision certified, so even better picture quality. Now, speaking about the displays, one thing I want to highlight is that Xiaomi 12 Pro has a curved panel, which is quite smooth to use, while the Realme GT2 Pro has a flat display, which is obviously going to be far more durable. Now, as I've always said and highlighted in multiple videos, both the displays have their own pros and cons. This feels like a more delight to use, but obviously it's going to be far more fragile. The GT2 Pro is obviously going to be far more uniform. You'll find screen protectors for it far more easily, and obviously it's even if something were to happen to it, you can get a replacement for it for a far more cheaper price. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that is something that I would leave for you guys to decide whether you want a flat panel or a curved panel. Now, as far as the refresh rate is concerned, they are both LTPO 2.0 panels, which basically means that the refresh rate can drop down to 1 Hz and go all the way high to 120 Hz, depending on the content that you're consuming on the panel. Also, speaking about the content consumption, it's aided by the audio department, and while you get stereo speakers on the Realme GT2 Pro, Xiaomi takes it a step ahead, offering a total of 4 speakers. Now, that definitely makes the audio output louder and richer. However, it's not to say that the 12 Pro has a significant advantage in terms of audio, and that difference is something that's clearly noticeable when you're gaming on this, but even while watching content, it completely depends on how you're holding the device. See, the problem is that you have one speaker over here, while the other speaker is on this side. Like, obviously, one speaker and one tweeter, and once again, one speaker and one tweeter here. But basically, the point is, if you're holding it like this, only one, like, regardless of how you're holding it, only one pair of speaker and tweeter will be, well, not covered, while the other one will be a bit muffled. So that is something to keep in mind. I don't really understand the design choice here, but it is what it is. Alright, so moving along, let's talk about the flagship cameras here. Now, Realme GT2 Pro took a step forward by claiming to be the first phone in India to come with a dual 50MP camera setup. You know, the 50MP primary and a 50MP ultra wide sensor with a 3MP microscope lens that's quite fun to use. However, Xiaomi decided that who needs a microscope lens? We'll just go for a more practical telephoto setup, but took it the next step by making sure that all three lenses are 50MP. Up front, they both have the same 32MP selfie sensor. But again, that's on paper. How does the real world performance look like? Well, let's take a look. Alright, so kicking things off with the low light shots, I would say that Xiaomi retains more detail in low light shots in darker areas as compared to Realme. The color reproduction and the noise is also pretty well maintained on both the devices. Now, there are some instances where Realme might offer a little bit of an improvement over the Xiaomi 12 Pro, but for the major part, the 12 Pro does offer better results. Moving on to daylight shots, Xiaomi produces punchy and contrasty images, whereas Realme produces punchy but less contrast in images. Now, what I'm trying to say is that Realme is closer to reality, while Xiaomi offers a more cinematic and a more likable look to it. Now, that likable obviously depends on you. If you like these kinds of color profiles, then you would love the Xiaomi 12 Pro, whereas I personally feel that the Realme has more closer to reality colors, offering you more room to have manual post-processing. With that being said, Xiaomi's images have more crispness in most cases over Realme's images. The 12 Pro's photos also have lower black levels and the shadows are fine to achieve that contrasty look. Whereas in Realme, it tries to balance both the highlights and shadows and produces balanced images. Now, this translates into the HDR comparison as well, where Realme performs slightly better in my opinion. Now, it retains more data in the dark and low light areas and helps in producing a more detailed HDR image. However, on the other hand, Xiaomi has one advantage where it manages to keep the color profile constant when switching between lenses. So regardless of whether you're clicking from the 50MP primary sensor or the 50MP ultra wide sensor, or even if you switch to the telephoto lens, the color profile remains majorly the same. Now, on that note, it's important to understand that when we speak of color profile, you have to look at individual colors. You cannot look at the entire image because obviously your view frame in a normal photo and an ultra wide photo is very different. When you add more subjects to it, obviously the color profile can slightly change, but you have to look at the overall tonality. And that is what we mean by when the color profile changes or not. So while Realme does a good job at it, the Xiaomi 12 Pro is definitely better in that context. Moving on to selfies, as you can see that the Realme GT2 Pro has a clear advantage. The shots are more detailed, the color profile is also more natural. However, if you switch to the portrait mode, we see some level of softening happening to Realme's shots. On the other hand, the 12 Pro keeps the results consistent, so that's good. However, at the end of the day, I think I would still pick Realme's selfie performance here. As for videos, they're both amazing flagship devices, so the quality is pretty much next level. As you can see on your screen right now, both the Realme GT2 Pro and the Xiaomi 12 Pro will not disappoint you, be it details, be it HDR, be it the color science. Alright, so next up, let's talk about the performance. You get the same Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 with UFS 3.1 on both the devices, so that's a given, they're both flagship devices. But let's talk about numbers and heat. So as far as the benchmarks are concerned, you can see them both on your screen right now. They're both flagship devices and all the benchmarks were run with the high performance modes enabled. Now, as you can see, for the major part, benchmarks are comparable, whether it's Antutu or Geekbench, the performance is pretty much neck to neck. However, the big difference that you'll notice is in terms of CPU throttling. Like, yes, Realme does throttle a bit, but just look at Xiaomi's graph. It's unbelievable how red this thing is. Now, I did reach out to the brand for this, and they said that it's probably an issue because when we were invited to the pre-briefings and when we tested out their units at the launch event, they did not have these issues running on their internal units. So probably it's an issue with the review units that we've received, or maybe it's a problem with the software build that these units are running. Now, regardless, I cannot state whether this issue will be present in your retail units or not. More importantly, even if this is a software issue, I haven't received a final word on when this will be fixed. So while I have been in close connection with the brand, speaking about the performance, and while it is my job to tell you that this is something that will be fixed, as a critic, I also have to tell you that from what I can see right now, this is the state of devices that we have. I cannot entirely confirm if there will be a throttling issue or not in your retail unit. I'm still waiting for an official confirmation for that from Xiaomi. But yeah, it is what it is, at least in front of me right now. Moving on, let's talk about the software. You get RealmeUI 3.0 based on Android 12 versus MIUI 13 based on Android 12. Interestingly, as much as the perception might make you think, it's Realme that offers more bloatware and also some ads, whereas the Xiaomi 12 Pro is completely clean. Now, completely clean might be an overstatement considering that you still have ads inside browser and those useless apps, but nonetheless, for the major part, the 12 Pro is far more cleaner as compared to the Realme GT2 Pro. So that is one thing. Other than that, as far as features go, they're both neck to neck. Obviously, you have plethora of features available on both the devices. No complaints there. They're both snappy, they're both reliable, both are pretty good. Both have a shabby record when it comes to updates, although Realme does have a slight edge here, so maybe I'll give slight edge to Realme for that. Another slight edge that I'll give Realme for is the fact that, well, it's kind of based, like it's closer to stock Android, but then again, that is a very personal preference. I prefer RealmeUI's look, which is why I prefer using this device more in terms of the software experience. With that being said, if you are a MIUI fan, you would absolutely love the MIUI 13 experience based on Android 12 available on the Xiaomi 12 Pro. It's like the best MIUI experience so far that I've used on any Xiaomi device. Next up, we have the battery segment, and Realme comes with a 5000 mAh battery with 65 watts of fast charging and no support for wireless charging. On the other hand, the Xiaomi 12 Pro comes with a 4600 mAh battery with 120 watts of fast charging and 50 watts of wireless charging as well. Two things to be noted. One, 50 watts of wireless charging is supported by a native charger, which surprisingly is not available in India. I actually went on to the website and that charger is nowhere to be seen. So, I mean, why are they claiming it to have that support? I mean, fine, it supports that, but that charger is not even available in India, so that's weird. Obviously, other than that, yes, the fact that it does support wireless charging sounds good, nice. I mean, I do use wireless charging, so that's nice. But all of that being said, at the end of the day, I would still pick Realme because let's be honest, these are flagship devices. Those extra 400 mAh will make a lot of difference. Now, whether you want 400 mAh more or whether you want double the charging speed is entirely up to you. As I've always said, I'm happy with 65 watts of fast charging. I don't have an issue with that. However, obviously it's nice to have 120 watts of fast charging. So I'll let you guys be the judge on whether you want a longer battery life or you want faster charging. Which brings us to the pricing. Now the Realme GT2 Pro is available for a starting price tag of rupees 50,000, while the 12 plus 256GB variant is available for 58,000. On the other hand, the Xiaomi 12 Pro has been launched at a base variant of 63,000, while the 12GB variant is priced at rupees 67,000. However, like I said, you also have the option of the introductory discounts, which brings down the pricing to just 53,000 for the base variant. So, which device to pick? Well, here's what I would say. If performance is what you're looking for, go for the GT2 Pro. I am sure that Xiaomi will be fixing it, but there's no clarity on that. And if there is no clarity, I cannot wholeheartedly recommend the 12 Pro. Apart from that, the 12 Pro is better in almost every way. Like for 3,000 more, considering the introductory discounts, for 3,000 more, you get a better design, like a more simplistic design. You get definitely a better display. You get a more improved camera setup and a more consistent and a more reliable camera setup. You do get smaller battery, but then again, obviously you do get faster charging speeds. MIUI 13, personally, I do not like it like in terms of software experience, I would definitely pick RealmeUI. But nonetheless, considering the overall package, I would love to use MIUI 13, and it's the most amazing MIUI experience on a Xiaomi device. So yeah. And well, that was it. If you found this video helpful, make sure to let us know by giving us a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel for more awesome tech content. Till then, this is Juan from GTR, and I'll see you in the next one.